Hi, my name is Spencer. We're Dice Group 17.
I'm Jayden.
And I'm Frank.
Okay, so for this first part, it just labels each of the dice pictures, like each of the JPEGs as like dice 1, dice 2, dice 3, dice 4, dice 5, dice 6. And those are the different sides of the dice. And then right over here is the ThingSpeak, like the channel ID, right API key, and the read key. Okay, and so for the startup function, it has each of the UI axes like labeled as A, B, C, D, E to simplify it. And it also turns off the axis. So when you open the game, it doesn't display like a white figure. And it sets all of the table on the side to 0. So yeah. And each of the UI axes and variables are all equal to false. And then there's also the randomizing X function. And N is equal to 0 and P is equal to 0, which means player 1. And yeah. And the upper scores are equal to 0 and the lower scores are equal to 0. And then here's the other part of the ThingSpeak. And so for the first function, the row button function, there's global variables of A, B, C, D, E, X, and N, temp 1, temp 2, temp 3, temp 4, temp 5. And those are just the different dices. And this first part is if N equals 3, then the sound changes on the game to say that you're out of rolls. And then if it's less than 3, then you'll hear a rolling dice sound. And then here's the randomizing function that randomizes the value for each of the dices and like what it shows. And yeah. And this is we use switch case statements to display like the different pictures of the dices. And that continues on. And then at the end of the function, it adds 1. So it counts how many times you roll. So each time you press the button, it adds 1. And then the max amount is 3. All right. And now Spencer's going to talk about the UI table.
So from then, there's going to be the table holding all of the scores. And through this table, we're also going to be keeping track of scoring. So as you can see, we have Ace's score, which will count up the number of ones in the randomized dices. And then it'll multiply that by 1 because each one is only 1 point. And so we did that for the whole upper section of the table. So aces, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, those are all counted the same way. And then we also have a bonus. And if the upper scores added together at the end is more than 63, then you get an extra 35 points at the end. So that part is taken into account. And then for the more complicated dice rolls, like such as 3 of a kind and 4 of a kind, we used a lot of Booleans to keep track of whether we are having 3 of a kind or 4 of a kind in the dice rolls, and points would be allocated respectively in each of those cases. And so we did that the same for 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, full house, small straight, large straight, Yahtzee, chance. That same process was applied throughout that whole time. And then the rules button was not used. Or no, the rules button was used, but this function here makes the rules pop up. And now Frank is going to talk about the end turn button and the hold buttons.
So for our end turn buttons, we have multiple temporary values where it's stored into the temporary value. So every time we either click, whenever we click the hold button, it will either change from hold to unhold or vice versa. So in end turn, it will swap everything back to hold. So for the second player to use. So in this case, the end turn calculates all the scores. It calculates whether or not the bonus is true or not, and then it will set it into and it will set the total score at the very bottom into the player score 1 and player score 2 later for determining the winner. And then it changes between player 1 and player 2's turn, and then it will change the very top part into telling us whether or not it's player 1 or player 2's turn. It also, for the hold buttons, each of them changes from hold to unhold depending on whether or not the player has clicked on it, and it sets the values A, B, C, D, or E to true or false depending on whether or not it's being held or unheld, so that the function above is able to run whenever whenever A is true, it will keep the temp value, and then if not, it will reset it with a new random value. And then now I guess Spencer and Jayden will play the game out.
Okay, now we're gonna demonstrate how the game works. I'll be player 1, Jayden will be player 2. When we roll, get a sound and 5 random dice. Um, 3. Alright, that sucks. 3.
Okay, and now it's my turn.
What are you trying to get?
I was trying to get a thing, but never mind. I'll just do 3s.
Okay. So, here, well, I'll show how once you hit 3 rolls, that's your max, and now it makes a little sound. It won't let me roll again. How many rounds we're gonna do? 3?
Yeah,
3
3.
rounds. Okay.
Haha.
1, 2, 5, 6 large straight. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 4. Stop. Okay.
Brick. Okay.
Okay.
And now
Okay. Yeah.
should we
So
end game?
yeah, we can end the game and see player 2 won.
That's it.